Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you to all of the witnesses for being here. Let me say that I, too, am pleased that we're finally holding a hearing after years on this vitally important topic, particularly as these anti-Jewish, anti-Israel protests now erupt again on our college campuses, most of which, all of which, are getting massive amounts of federal funding. Mr. Rockland, is that how I say your name, by the way? Is it Rockland?
Rackland, just
Rackland.
R-A-C-K rather than
Rackland. Okay, I got it. All right. I'll see if I can adhere to that.
Appreciate it.
Let me just ask you, I just want to make sure that I heard you in response. I think it was to Senator Welch. Did you say that you're not in favor of canceling visas for foreign students who commit unlawful acts against Jewish students?
I said at this time, Nexus does not have a position on that, the organization I work for. And then I went on to describe how in the national strategy, it doesn't talk about that, doesn't recommend that, and that was done in consultation with 1,000 leaders across the board and was supported by the ADL, AJC, JFNA, J Street, all of us.
So you don't think that's not a good idea? I mean, why would we permit a foreign student who's here on a student visa who commits an act of violence, an unlawful act against a Jewish student? Why wouldn't we say, sorry, but if you're going to commit acts of violence against Jewish students, Jewish Americans or foreign Jewish students, whomever, we're going to revoke your visa. I mean, you're going home.
So I think on that issue itself, I'm trying to think now. It's not, when you're talking about acts of violence and you're talking about actually breaking U.S. law towards students, that is criminal. That should be done through the Justice Department. When we're talking about deportation, that's immigration. So if there is a criminal investigation that leads to deportation, I think that's perfectly acceptable.
Well, I'm talking about student visas. They're here on visas. They're here on particular.
Doing that.
Well, sure, but why don't we write into the process a condition of the visa that if you assault a Jewish student on campus, you're out of here. You're gone.
If it was written in the statute and if it was broad enough to be not just be for Jews, but for all people that have experienced discrimination, regardless of who they are, I think that we should look at that. But I think until that is in law, what I'm basing this on is what the current statute says and what currently is being done.
Well, listen, I guess I don't understand the hesitation here at all. To me, this is an easy call, and I've urged the current Secretary of State, Secretary Rubio, to do this, and I think he's got the authority to do it. My position is it would send an incredibly clear message. If you come to this country on a student visa, you are here as a guest of the United States for particular purposes. If you assault a Jewish student on campus, you ought to be out of here. And we ought to make it clear to people we are not going to tolerate it. We're not going to tolerate it for any reason. Can I just ask you why I have you here, Mr. Rackland?
Yeah,
I've heard you talk about DEI. I just want to be clear on this. You would agree, wouldn't you, that much of this DEI rhetoric has been weaponized against Jewish students? The DEI dialogue has been weaponized against them. They're called colonizers. They're called imperialists. They're called oppressors. It's the classic intersectionality DEI language. I'll give you some tangible examples. The DEI chair at MIT publicly issued statements calling Israel a genocidal apartheid state. You have the University of Washington's DEI office that sent out an email describing Israel as, once again, an unlawful and oppressive settler colonial apartheid state. The DEI program coordinator at Rutgers said to Jewish students, F you colonizer, F you Zionists. I mean, my point is, isn't it time to speak some truth to power here to these people and to say that Israel is not a colonizer state. It is not an apartheid state. Jewish students are not colonizers, and this kind of rhetoric shouldn't be weaponized against them. You'd agree with that, surely.
I would say that it's wrong to blame Jewish students for the actions of the state of Israel in any way, shape, or form.
And it's wrong to call the state of Israel a colonial apartheid state.
I would say that Israel right now, a number of different human rights organizations talk about them in that sense. Personally, I don't see Israel that way. I've been there many a times. I have family that live there. I've been to the West Bank. I've enjoyed it. However, there are considerable issues regarding the occupation that need to be addressed, and inadequacies between how Palestinians are how Palestinians live in the West Bank versus how Palestinian Israelis live in.
My time, I'm only interrupting you because my time has almost
please.
expired, and the chairwoman is being extremely strict on the time. So, but I just want to make this point because I think we're seeing it over and over and over where you have actual campus apparatus, DEI apparatus on these campuses. These are departments, these are officials, these are professors who are weaponizing that against Jewish students. My question is, shouldn't we condemn that? No holds barred. Say that is wrong for DEI officials to be saying Israeli students are colonizers, Jewish American students are colonizers, Israel's an apartheid state. That is wrong, full stop, no conditions. Would you agree with that?
I would say that a lot of DEI programs need to actually bring into its anti-Semitism training, either going to other organizations, because so much of what is happening within the DEI
Or just be eliminated. Why don't we just eliminate the DEI programs and eliminate the kind of reverse discrimination against Jews that they are
Hawley,
promoting?
I appreciate your passion, and we understand. Thank you very much for your participation.